Welcome back everyone, I really hope you're all doing well. Today I'm coming to you from my favourite plant corner in the living room, bit of a change of scenery from the sofa. I've been waiting for my new sofa to arrive for about 4 months now, so I'm super excited about that. Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks it should be here. Also my Christia obcordata or obcordata seeds have arrived, which is a lot sooner than I thought. I'll be making a collection of videos on how to grow the seeds and how they're progressing. So I'll create a playlist on my YouTube channel and then add all the videos into that section so that you can easily find them if you'd like to try and grow this plant for yourself. I'm really excited to get the seeds started and hopefully watch the plant grow. I've heard they can be a little bit tricky, so fingers crossed. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my fastest growing houseplants. Some of them I've only had for around, say, 6 months, and some of them I've had for years. So for those of you that can be a bit impatient with plant growth and you want your plants to grow quickly, you'll probably really enjoy this video. And whilst I'm here, I just have to showcase the newest leaf on my Queen Anthurium, looking rather splendid. I moved her down here from the office probably about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and she's doing really well. My pride and joy at the moment, no crispiness, she's looking perfect. And I cannot wait for the next leaf to pop out, and hopefully it'll be even bigger. So we're going to start off right where I was stood, and my first fastest growing houseplant is the Philodendron Squamifurum. This thing does not stop growing. I've had this plant for 5 months, and when I first got it, it had 7 leaves. So it came up to here. So it had all these bottom leaves. And then in the 5 months I've had it, it has grown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and another one on the way. Even when there's a leaf unfurling, there seems to be another one growing as well. It's crazy. I already need to replace the moss pole. I really didn't expect it to grow this quick. I got this plant from Turnip Tropical, and he did say to me that he's got one at home as well, and it's one of his fastest growing houseplants. But I honestly never imagined it to grow this fast, and also through the winter it's just continued growing. And because it's such a fast grower, it does need fertilizing a bit more often. So this leaf looks okay now, but when they first unfurl, you might find it looks a little bit streaky like this one. And that's just because it needs a bit more fertilizer. So I have actually been fertilizing this plant through the winter, although I have been diluting it a little bit. That one doesn't look as streaky actually, but that might be because I have given it some fertilizer last week. I've been giving it fertilizer every 2 to 3 weeks, but I have been diluting it. Next on my list is the gorgeous Philodendron Gloriosum. Not quite as fast growing as some of my others, but in the time I've had it, it has grown quite a lot of new foliage. So when I first got this plant in July last year, it just had this 1 leaf here. So since then it has produced 3 new leaves. This is a brand new one, just unfurling. This is a crawling variety of philodendron. So ideally you need to put them in a long kind of rectangular pot. And that's something I'm going to think about with this plant soon. Hopefully when the shops reopen and I can actually go and have a look at some nice plant pots. It's a bit difficult at the moment buying stuff because we're still in lockdown here in the UK and all the shops are closed. But this is definitely one of my favourite plants. It's a real showstopper, really beautiful. Love everything about it. The lovely heart-shaped leaves, the veining, the velvety texture. And I love that when they first unfurl, they've got this kind of pink hue to the veins. This was one of the beauties that I imported via Foliage Fanatic, and I ended up keeping it for myself. But it's definitely one of my favourite plants. My next plant is over on this new little planty corner I've got here. I am expecting a new filing cabinet next week, which matches some of my other furniture in the living room. So it will look a bit nicer, and I need to arrange the plants a bit better. Hopefully once the shops are open again, I can get some nice plant stands and sort this corner out. But the next plant on my list is the stunning Florida Beauty, and it has just unfurled a new leaf. So I got this plant 6 months ago, and originally it just had 2 leaves. This was one of them, and the other one at the back here. So as you can see, they don't really have much variegation on them. And then the next leaf to pop out, I was quite shocked was this one with really high variegation. So in the 6 months I've had it, it's actually grown 6 new leaves, and half of those are highly variegated. As you can see, there's just a little bit on this one. This one at the back here is really beautiful. That's got some really striking variegation. Again, this one, really variegated. And then the next one, not quite so variegated, but still very lovely. And then this is the most recent one here. This one's still hardening off, so you won't be able to see the variegation properly until it's done so, but it looks like it's going to have really high variegation on that one, especially on this side here. So originally I was growing this plant upstairs underneath my Spider Farmer grow light, but it grew so fast and so tall that that's the reason I've had to move it down here. So now it's just sat underneath a basic grow light bulb, which is linked to my Amazon shop, with some friends. And also I moved the Melanochrysum down here as well, because that was also getting too tall for the shelf upstairs. I've also got my silver dragon, some aglaonemas, and ace of spades hybrid at the back there. And then my clarinervium just sits there in between the fish tank and the filing cabinet. I do plan on making a care tips video for this plant if anyone is interested, just because I've had quite good luck with it and it's grown so quickly, and also it's got some really lovely variegation on it. I was just so surprised because when it first arrived it just had 2 leaves with barely any variegation, so I wasn't really expecting anything like this. Next up is a plant that I've got in my biOrb AIR Terrarium. Please excuse my biOrb AIR, I really need to get everything out and rescape the whole thing. The Photonia kind of took over, and that ended up kind of killing off some of the jewel orchids, which is really disappointing. So when I rescape it, I think I'm going to get rid of the Photonia and just concentrate on some smaller, kind of rarer varieties of plants. But the plant I really wanted to show you was the Begonia Amphioxus. So originally I purchased 2 unrooted small cuttings from eBay. To be honest, they were a bit of a nightmare to begin with. The only thing I really knew is that it needed really high humidity, but it is quite a fussy plant. But as you can see, it's quite big now, and I had to just chop the top off it recently, and I'm rooting that in water, which I'll show you properly in a moment. So I've found that the Begonia Amphioxus propagates really easily. So even though this plant is pretty fussy and it can drop leaves quite easily, the leaves actually reroot very easily. So I found that any leaves that dropped off, I just left them and they actually rerouted into the moss, and that has actually resulted in me having multiple plants. So I found this particular begonia to be very fast growing and very easy to propagate, but like I mentioned, it is quite fussy and it does need a terrarium environment. Let me show you the cutting that I popped into water probably about 2 weeks ago. So the plant was getting a bit tall a couple of weeks ago, so I just literally chopped this bit off the top and just popped it into a little shot glass of water. And as you can see, it's grown quite a lot of roots already. So you can propagate this plant either by stem or leaf, which is really cool. Just going to pop this back in. So yes, this is definitely one of my fastest growing houseplants, but I wouldn't recommend it for beginners as it is quite fussy, and it's taken me a while to kind of get to know it and know what it wants. But I'm a bit worried that when I have to take it out to rescape the biOrb AIR that it's going to drop all its leaves. But as I said, they root really easily, so even if it does throw a fit, it will grow back. So beautiful. So the next plant on my list is the Begonia maculata whitey. This one I rescued 2 or 3 months ago from B&Q. It was 3 small plants that were very sad looking, very crispy, and they were in the reduced section. I think they were £3 each. So I thought, right, I'm going to rescue them and see what I can do. I did check them for bugs. They didn't have any bugs. I just think they'd been underwatered and probably were a bit cold maybe. So far since I've had it, there's been about 8 new leaves. So this is one of them here. Some of them are kind of tucked inside. And then there's also lots of new growth forming. Another one there, look. I find this plant to be very fast growing, as long as it's in the right conditions. So I've got the plant growing underneath a grow bulb. I apologise for the flickering, it's something to do with my new iPhone. And it seems to be doing really well so far. It's produced lots of new growth. It's also getting the light from my biOrb air next to it. I'm currently watering all my plants once a week. This one is actually quite a thirsty plant compared to some of my others. It does enjoy high humidity. This is my other Begonia maculata whitey in my kitchen. And as you can see, it's super tall. I've had this one since, I think, October 2019. And when I first got it, it had about 8 leaves, I believe. Now, I don't know how many leaves it's got, quite a lot. I'm actually quite surprised at how happy it is in here because it's quite a cold room, especially in the winter, but it is getting lots of bright light and a little bit of sun throughout the day, so it does seem really happy. It does look a bit leggy now because it's so tall. So my plan will be to propagate it and then plant some of the cuttings back in here and make it a bushier plant. It'll be really interesting to see which begonia thrives better, this one or the one that's in my living room under the grow light. I just brought it down off the window so you can have a proper look at it, as the light over there is not very good. It's really beautiful. And I have changed this bamboo stick, I think 3 times since I've had it, and now it's getting too tall for the window. The next plant on my list is also here in the kitchen. This is the vanilla Planifolia, and well, what can I say? I mean, this was quite small when I first got it. I think one of the vines has actually dropped off of the ceiling and it's kind of hanging, but I did kind of tie it up in the corner there. I'm not quite sure what to do. Maybe I'll put some hooks up on the ceiling for it, but it's having a good old time clung to the wall there. So I've had this plant since May 2019. This is one that I got from the Garden Society, which is one of my local garden centres. And as you can see, one of the aerial roots has come all the way around here. It's quite funny. I think I'm going to need to give that a little trim at some point. But yes, so very fast growing and has been pretty easy and low maintenance. So I've had this Pelia since March 2020 and seems to be loving it here in the kitchen. It has grown so much and it's got quite a few pups as well. I think this was one from the Garden Society as well. You can't really see, but there's, I think, 3 sets of pups in here, which I will be propagating in the springtime. Yes, very surprised at how much this one has grown. I've had one of these before and I didn't have much luck with it, but I think it's because I kept moving it around. I think once you find somewhere that they're happy with, you should just leave it. And it does seem really happy here on the kitchen windowsill. So I don't, oh no, I've got a casualty. Obviously that was going to drop off anyway. It actually looks like it might need a bit of a water. When I water this one, I take the pot out and let the water drain all the way through and then pop it back in its ceramic planter. But yes, very impressed with how quickly this one's grown, and I'm not going to move it from the kitchen. I do rotate this one as well, just so that it grows kind of evenly. You'll find that it will grow towards the light, so they can kind of bend in one direction if you don't rotate it. Next up, tucked away in quite a dark corner actually, is my golden dragon, which was a 1-leaf cutting back in June 2019, I believe. So this was the original leaf. And since then, I think it's grown about 12 leaves. But it's not getting enough light and it does need a proper support pole, so that's why all the leaves are quite teeny tiny. But it's really cute and I really like it, and I can't believe how quickly it's grown. I think I'm going to propagate this one and then I will give it a proper moss pole and give it some more light and see if I can get some nicer leaves like this one, bigger leaves. It's a really beautiful plant, very fast growing and very low maintenance. I haven't had any issues with it at all. Next up we have my amazing Alocasia Cooperation. So I've had this one almost 2 years, and when I first got it, it had 5 leaves, and I think it's got 20 leaves now. So as you can see, it looks a bit wild. This is the newest leaf up here. It's never gone dormant or dropped any leaves, which is quite impressive. Although I have noticed in the past week or so that a couple of the oldest leaves are starting to yellow. So it might be time for them to go. I've never repotted this one. I think there's 2 of them now in here, so I definitely need to repot this plant in springtime. It's very pot bound. But as you can see, it still looks super happy. And I'm just really surprised at how quickly it's grown and how many leaves it's got. So last but not least, we've got my silver satin pothos, which I've had for about 2.5 years. This started off as quite a small plant, and as you can see, it's pretty mammoth now, and it's grown all the way along here, down here. I've propagated it quite a few times and it just keeps growing back. Also, it started shingling up the wall over a year ago, so it has attached itself to the wall. I haven't put any hooks up or anything. It goes all the way up, right up to the ceiling, and then it started growing across. So I would say out of all the plants I've shown you today, this is probably the fastest growing out of all of them. So if you're quite impatient with waiting for plants to grow, this one's for you. And it's really beautiful, and also very low maintenance. It's not getting a tremendous amount of light here. These plants are kind of getting a medium to bright indirect light. They're quite far away from the window, but they all seem super happy. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.